Natty Willie, and I am here to review for you an episode of The Wheel of Time, episode 5, Blood Calls Blood. If you have not subscribed already, please click subscribe so you can be notified of our videos, especially Wheel of Time content. Yay! I know I'm a little bit sober because this episode was super heavy when it comes to emotions, just in general. We start, this episode still was structured similarly to how the other episodes were structured, but the only difference I thought this time was how we began the episode, which was really to see the Aes Sedai bury their dead, but also even some of the men that Logain had, including the king. And then you have, of course, Stephen, bury his Aes Sedai. That the performances, I will say, by Daniel Hedy and Peter Franzen was really good. This was just another good episode. I mean, come on now. If you can bring this emotion out of me, come on now. I need a minute. So I think in this case, I'll work backwards. So we end the episode with Daniel, Henny, or Lan grieving the loss of Stephen because he committed suicide because the loss of his Aes Sedai was too much. The bond, again, this is unfortunately a really good example. We had to know this, unfortunately, for reasons. The foreshadowing of this is we had to see this, and it hits you in the chest because Lan tried. He tried, and even Nynaeve tried, and you could see her emotion. And I know through the bond, Moiraine was trying to keep it together too, but she feels what Lan is feeling. This episode also, I think, showed how grief can be, people can go through grief in different ways. So you have Stephen, who unfortunately kills himself or commits suicide, and then you have Perrin, who's been grieving for weeks and a month really, because he accidentally killed his wife, and he felt he deserved to die, and because of that, Egwene, was doing what she could to make him feel like, despite everything, it really wasn't your fault, and you deserve to live just as much as anyone else. So I'll get back to them in a second, but yeah, just that whole, from Stephen taking the ring to him talking about how he met Karina and how he felt lost until he met her, and then now he feels that loss again to a severe degree. But then you also see Alanna potentially offering him or bond him to, I think, kind of prevent this, so he has a reason to live, and he wanted the pain to go away, and that just, it hit home in a lot of ways. But I did want to talk about the scene with Stephen and Lan again. He actually drugged him, but before that they did talk about Lan and Nynaeve and the potential relationship between them. Lan's like, it's not a good idea to get involved with me, but the feelings are there. So there's an acknowledgement that there's something there going on between him and Nynaeve. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to see them talk or just to see them pick up the conversation that, we left off of before the battle. And I kind of wish we had that, but Nynaeve, being stubborn, she has a one-track focus, and she's dealing with the fact that she has power that she didn't really realize how much she had, and just I think in her own way she needed to process that too. In that month, which we did get a time jump, a month of traveling for everyone. That happened, and I did find it interesting, like how everyone came to Tar Valon. It was just interesting, like, you know, they did like a procession with Logain, which that happens, but in a different setting. Before I talk about the procession, I want to talk about Mat and Rand entering Tar Valon, and Mat's definitely getting worse, and it just seems like it's inevitable, at least to him, but at the same time, he doesn't want this, and you can tell he doesn't want it. And his conversation with Rand about promising each other, I mean, that was, you know, it just harkens back to like their friendship, and just the fact that, you know, if I'm gonna go mad, don't let me do that. Just you know, just let me help me be myself. And, you know, they make that promise to each other. And I did, again, find it interesting that, again, as part of showing us that Mat's getting worse, he even yelled at a kid. He doesn't yell at kids. Like, that's just not him. Because you saw his, you know, conversation with the little girl that unfortunately got killed. And he's still feeling guilty like that. He definitely feels like he somehow, some way killed that family. And he just, you can tell that that affects him. But he still has this sickness, and he doesn't understand what this sickness is. So, again, definitely good acting between Yosha and Barney. Like, I'm sorry, I haven't said this enough, but Barney is mad, and it's just so disappointing that, you know, he's been recast already, but I am hoping that he's okay. I'm definitely going to miss Barney as Mat. It's going to be an adjustment for sure. I think it definitely reminds me a little bit, in a different sense, Spartacus, because I love that show. I just remember hearing Andrew Whitfield got sick, and then of course he passed away, and then Liam took over as Spartacus, and once I adjusted to him, he made Spartacus, or the role, his own. And so I'm hoping that that's going to be the case here, because, you know, Andrew Whitfield, again, is a whole nother topic. But anyways, let me get back to the show. So one of the things that I was always, not always, but from the first episode, from my spoiler review, I did mention that I was disappointed in the fact that Nynaeve didn't have enough interaction with the boys. And I finally got to see that bond, because I didn't really see it in the first episode, but now I see it, especially with Fran, and that's very important that we see that bond that she has. And I feel like that's where he kind of got his distrust from the Aes Sedai, because Nynaeve definitely distrusts Aes Sedai. But let me build up to that, because Moiraine and their party, or the Aes Sedai, arrive at the White Tower, and then Moiraine, of course, is like, hey, you need to stay here, don't talk to nobody, don't do nothing. But I don't even think she realized that Liandrin and Nynaeve already had a rapport with each other. And of course, Liandrin took advantage of that. And Nynaeve, even though she knows in her mind that Liandrin's a snake, it's like, at the end of the day, if it leads her to her people, she doesn't care. And that's what happens. Like, she suggests she go to the garden, she meets Lowell, and then Lowell takes her to the boys. So it worked out in her favor. So of course she's gonna, like, you know, take advantage of that, even though she still doesn't trust the motivations of Liandrin. And Moiraine did try and warn her of that, but Nynaeve is stubborn. And this is, unfortunately, this is where Nynaeve kind of like irks me, because her stubbornness, I think, in some cases, especially, I feel like in the case with Mat, and just wanting to leave and just not even deal with Aes Sedai, it's one of those things where, Nynaeve, I get it, but sometimes you have to take the bigger road here, because Moiraine, in her own way, I think, knows that, you know, she tries to empathize with Nynaeve, because she, of course, at the end of the day, she channels herself, and she became an Aes Sedai because of that. So for her, I think in her own way, she wanted to comfort Nynaeve and at least, you know, be more blunt than she probably normally would. So in her way, I think she tried to like empathize with Nynaeve. Granted, I don't think Nynaeve was really hearing it, but hopefully she understood that she was at least trying to come from a good place, even though, again, all she cares about is reuniting with the other Emmet Fielders, and that's all she wants. and she doesn't care about anything else, even the fact that she can channel, even though she doesn't want to deal with Aes Sedai or politics or anything like that. But unfortunately, because of her power, she doesn't really have much of a choice. And of course, she's going to take the first opportunity to run away from that. And in a way, I don't blame her, but but I did enjoy the reunion. And even she kind of like noticed that there's something's going on with Mat, but no one's really realizing that it could be something else and not necessarily potentially him being the Dragonborn. Like, it's not even occurring to them. And I'm hoping that comes to fruition eventually. I hope they realize, hey, there's something going on with him and it's the dagger and not anything else. But I did like the conversation between her and Rand. I did think the story of Egwene and how that tied into how they switched to Egwene and Perrin was definitely good. That transition. I feel like, oh, and another thing, the transitions of the show. They do at least one or two, and I've always enjoyed them. I feel like I didn't really see one. I didn't notice one in this episode, which is kind of understandable given the context and the topics that were discussed in this episode. I mean, come on now. But back to the conversation about Egwene, you know, being sick and, you know, somehow breaking the fever and getting better. I mean, come on now. Y'all telling me you didn't think that maybe channeling didn't play a part of that? Come on now. Miraculously, she breaks the fever. Like, she winds up being better. And I think it's her willfulness to live, but also just channeling had to play a part of that. Come on now. Let's not be naive in that sense, but I feel like she wanted to at least comfort Rand and at least let them know, hey, Egwene's strong and she's gonna make it here, hook or by crook. So I think in that sense, that's where she was going with it, which is completely understandable. Earlier with the procession with Rand and Logain sees them. Nice misdirection there. I see it. The procession was interesting. Initially, I thought that maybe Liandrin had just happened to notice them and Logain looking at them, but considering where she was in the garden and Lowell was there earlier running his mouth, I'll get back to Lowell in a second. But since he probably ran his mouth, Liandrin, of course, told Nynaeve, and of course that, again, that's total manipulation. Like, of course she knows that, you know, Nynaeve doesn't like Moiraine. So she's gonna rebel, and they had that conversation from last week, but also, like, you know, this conversation. It's not surprising to me, but I mean, she kind of did her a favor in a way. Leandrin's Liandrin, like, she's so Moiraine and Liandrin had like a round. I feel like more rounds are coming as far as like their wordplay, their politicking. Same thing with Alanna and Moiraine, but Alanna I feel like is more aligned with Moiraine in a general sense. Like, they're friends, and so it's kind of like they're trying to watch each other's back, or at least Alanna is. Moiraine is still keeping a lot of stuff close to the vest here. And I did like their conversation, but I also like the wordplay with Nynaeve and, or not Nynaeve, I'm sorry, Liandrin and Moiraine. They pretty much talked about Nynaeve, and in her own way, Liandrin was like, yeah, Nynaeve is stubborn as hell. She picked that up immediately. And just her thirst for, like, she doesn't care about Aes Sedai. She's gonna be forced to, you know, become a novice, but her will or her stubbornness is, she has her own rules, and that's definitely Nynaeve. She feels like she has her own rules. She feels like she doesn't have to listen and take orders from nobody. But in a way, I feel like she needs to humble herself just enough, but not enough to, in her own way, it really makes sense why she's stubborn, and just, you know, I understand, but sometimes I get frustrated with it because sometimes it's not warranted, and that's where that line is with me. It just, sometimes the line is just not, sometimes you're just doing too much. You see it in this episode with her conversation with Rand. So, and then just that conversation with Liandrin and Moiraine, there's definitely something there. I mean, was Liandrin crushing on her maybe, but Moiraine was like not really feeling her. I mean, that touch was just completely unnecessary. I'm like, why are you touching me, ma'am? Like, you're in my space. I don't need you in my space. I'm not done yet. With actually Rand and Mat, we actually get our first like swear word or first like quote from the book. well, there were actually several quotes actually, but one of like the swearings that's unique to the Wheel of Time, Blood and Ashes, a version of it, not quite, but a version of it. I was like, yay, we finally hear what that's saying. I was like waiting for it. And there's just like a lot of subtleties in this episode too. And there have been some subtleties already when it comes to one character. We actually see Pa Dun Feng. He's conveniently in Tar Valon. And we hear the whistle that we heard in episode 1. And I want to say somewhat in episode 2 too. Yeah, we hear it. And then we see Pa Dun Feng. You can tell that's him that's looking at Rand and Mat as they enter the inn. And funny that they mentioned the inn, because Rand was like, this is a place that Tom mentioned. I kind of wish we got the name of it. I don't think we got the name of it, which was interesting too. Oh, I totally forgot about Lowell. They need to do something with that wig. We are not in a Tyler Perry movie. That you got a black man playing this role as a fantasy creature and you got him in a bad wig. Y'all can do better. I can adjust to the look, even though I feel like y'all could have made him just a little bit taller. Like y'all could have made it work. But for real, my main gripe right now is the wig. Horrible, just horrible. But I'm not blaming the actor. Hammond definitely killed it as Lowell. Like, he is Lowell. Like, his voice is everything. Like, I'm loving his voice. I love his, like, you know, saying already. And I did think he made a quote and it was, I liked it. And I just think that was, just because of the scene and everything, I just thought humans are always in a rush to something. And then it's like, never taking the time to properly prepare for what they're walking into. And I feel like this capitalizes the show a lot. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to more Lowell, except the wig. I don't really see, I was trying to get a look at his ears, and I'm just wondering if the choice of the wig is because they're trying to show his ears. I mean, that was still a good scene, but I was definitely distracted by the wig. I'm like, nah, y'all can't be doing Lowell like that. Lowell, just, it's gonna take some getting used to. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to his scenes and just his way of talking, and hopefully they'll, like, we definitely got some knowledge, because he thought that Rand was not human. And if you harken back to the episode 3, when we saw the dead Ayumin, Tom didn't know that he had red hair. Ayumin from the Two Rivers. Subtle. But it's funny that, you know, a month has passed, but no Fade, no Trollocs. You're telling me that no one saw a Trolloc or a Fade? So maybe the Fade's dead. That would be nice. I mean, just the fact that no one's seen anything or heard anything, they've hidden themselves that well, considering dark friends are among them. Come on now. But again, at the same time, because if something happened to the Fade, so what happens now? So who could be after them now? It's just like, what was the end goal? Like, are you still trying to eliminate potential, who could potentially be the Dragonborn, or have you narrowed it down enough so you were just gonna watch what happens? There's just so much going on here. I'm just like, what are we doing? But again, subtleties here. No one's been dreaming. No one's been, and well, I guess in Perrin's case, he hasn't really been sleeping. He refuses to sleep. And so it makes you wonder if Rand's been doing the same thing. Like, it makes you wonder, for real. Perrin and Egwene. Whew. And the Tinkers, and the White Cloaks, and Mavulda. Asshole. He's such an asshole. But we do get a lot of exposition with him and where his mind is when it comes to Aes Sedai and Waters, and what information he's gleaning from killing these women. And in a way, I've kind of wondered, because I saw a green ring. Green usually has at least more than one water. what the hell happened to the Warders? How the hell did he kill the Warders too? So he knows a little bit about the bond, but not enough to distinguish that, you know, there could just be two kids or two, you know, people that know each other really well, that are super close, and just reacting to the fact that my friend is being tortured. It's not anything more than that. But you're thinking, I'm an Aes Sedai and this is my water, even though I'm super young, right? Like, make it make sense. But he could tell that she could at least channel and that she was young enough. But he want to kill her before she even gets trained? Punk move, bruh. Total punk move. Yeah, it's like that scene, and his way of thinking is like definitely not surprising. And again, like, he's the extreme. He doesn't think that the power has a place in the world. He thinks that it's the Dark One is the reason why people have power versus just that gift from, you know, from the wheel. And it's funny that he would think that, considering, like, we would need any and everybody at the last battle here. Don't matter if you got magic. What? That's whew. And Marcus, oh my gosh, we got golden eyes. Yay! Oh my gosh. I was so happy. I was like, yes, we got golden eyes. And so Egwene has her moment. Nynaeve had a moment last week. This was Egwene's moment, as far as channeling and just seeing her stubbornness and just her will to live. Nynaeve, like Nynaeve was saying earlier, like, she is very stubborn, and this is, Maddie killed it. Maddie and Marcus killed it in those scenes. And I was, as Perrin was getting tortured, I was hearing the wolves. I was like, oh, they coming. They know bruh is hurting, and they're like, nah, we ain't going for that. We got to rescue my boy. So, hey, hell yeah. I was like, whew, I'm so glad that we're still starting to get a little more exposition or more info as far as the connection, because Perrin definitely has a connection. Why else we have golden eyes? But also just in the sense that at least that one little moment where that one wolf, I'm hoping it's a certain wolf, fingers crossed. Yeah, I know. But yeah, I was like, they were like, he's like, I think they don't want to hurt us. And then, like, the wolf is pretty much, you know, barking at him like, y'all need to roll out. Like, we got this. Let's roll out. You good. Let's just go. So I was just happy to see that. That was definitely like my jumping up moment. So I did think it was interesting that Egwene is the one that supposedly killed Valda versus Perrin. So he was already trying to hold that rage in, and the fact that she was the one that kind of like dealt like a supposedly death blow. Come on now, let's be for real. Like, Imavaldea is so not dead. It's too much like, right? Like, Karina can die, but Imavaldea gotta live, right? For every. Anyways, but I'm kind of glad that we almost saw him go ham, but not quite. Egwene did the duty versus him, and so I think that was helpful. And I think she low-key was instinctive in helping him, hopefully, you know, not go rage ham, but, you know, if it was a death, like, if she killed him, it was going to be on her versus him. So again, that friendship, y'all, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Eyes and ears. Moiraine mentioned eyes and ears. That's another term that we know and love at on the Wheel of Time. So yeah, that's pretty much what Moiraine was describing in her own way. It's pretty much people letting them know information. So, and in this case, it's definitely letting her know when the other four arrive at Tar Valon. And unfortunately, it's like Liandra kind of beat her to the punch as far as, you know, letting Nynaeve know to gain that trust. And again, Liandra did that shit on purpose. She was probably eventually going to tell her that, you know, Rand and Mat were there. Yeah. Whew. But I did get frustrated with Egwene and Perrin, because like, y'all could have just peeked, just taken a quick peek, saw that it was Imavaldea and quickly hid. But y'all did it too late. By the time he noticed y'all just running. Like, I wanted to smack him. I'm like, damn it, guys. Y'all making it too obvious. But yeah, Arm helped them out. And yeah, I definitely want to get to the Tankers and, you know, the Children of the Light. Like, you definitely see a difference in, like, their ideologies. And you see that the way the Leaf seems kind of slightly better as far as, like, standing up to people in their own way. And then the Children of the Light being dicks. Like, especially with Eamon Valda's camp. I don't know if... It would have been interesting to see if, you know, the other guy that we met in episode 2, if he had come to, was stopping the Tankers from, you know, moving forward, if he would have, A, recognized them, and 2, what he would have done after recognizing them. Like, I just feel like he would have handled it a little bit differently than Eamon Valda did. It just would have been interesting to see. Yeah, I was low-key rooting for Isla. Sorry, I feel like I've been pronouncing it Ilya, and it probably should be Isla, because I, like, rewatched episode, I want to say 3, and I was like, oh, it's Isla, my bad. And then also, I need to backtrack, because in episode 4, I mentioned the Mormons. It's really the Amish that I was thinking about, as far as, like, them going out and seeing the world before they go back to, you know, living the life of an Amish. My bad, guys, my bad. Yeah, again, this was just such a good episode. And then part of the conversation that Lan and, you know, Stefan had was the mention of the Forsaken, and then Stefan praying for them, and he kind of like harping back as like something that he learned from his mother, and that the figurines were part of his childhood. Like, he just brought it with him, and he's like praying against Ishmael, the father of lies. And Dana did mention him in episode 3, so that's twice that we have heard about Ishmael. And just the fact that Forsaken have been even mentioned, I have been waiting for them to mention the Forsaken. I'm like, how are they going to mention the Forsaken? And I'm so glad that they kind of did it as a way, in a way to say it's kind of like fairy tale, or kind of like we learn about who they are as far as the fact that they sold their souls to the Dark One. So that's all we know, really. But we see figurines, so they're different ones. I didn't really get a chance to count. I need to rewatch that, but I need to count like how many they showed, because I'm just wondering if they're going to condense a few, and just because there have been a lot of cast announcements lately, and I just don't know if at least one of them is one of the Forsaken. Like, there's still some speculation going on, because there hasn't been like an official, at least as far as I know, there hasn't been like an official name for some of the characters that these people are playing. There's speculation, but that's it. Like, I have an idea, because it'll make sense, like, as far as like who makes an appearance. And again, I'm just wondering how they're going to introduce them. I'm in a precarious position here. Like, I know stuff, but I don't know stuff. Like, I just don't know how they're going to get from point A to point B, even though point B may be like a major moment. But I'm just wondering how they're going to get to that point. It's actually a fun way to experience the show. Like, I don't know everything. Like, I know some stuff, like, and I can tell the differences. But as far as, you know, seeing how they will get there, I don't know. Because they've definitely made some changes in this episode. As far as Tar Valon and what happens in Tar Valon, definitely different. Whew. That again, and that was another little moment for me with Moiraine and in her room, and she's staring at a little thing, like, what's the picture about, Moiraine? And we get another mention of the Amyrlin Seat. I'm thinking we're gonna meet her next week. I'm looking forward to it, because Siuan Sanche, who's being played by Sophie Okonedo, hell to the yeah. I'm so looking forward to it. Like, oh my gosh, I love her. I will give a shout out to, you know, the people that were dealing with the figurines. I think that was really good. I think they did a good job with that. They kind of look like them, but kind of like how they're described. Like, yeah. And also another, okay, I did want to say something that kind of bothered me. I've heard complaints about like the hair and the makeup and the fact that they don't look dirty or they look too clean in some spots, and I'm kind of agreeing with them in this case, because I definitely feel like, at least in this episode, like, Logain was looking very clean when they went through the procession. Like, he wasn't dirty like he was last week. Like, the difference is uncanny. Like, what happened between then and now? Like, did y'all, like, clean him up with the one power? Like, what did we do here? And it always made me wonder, like, did he how did he use the bathroom? Like, especially when he was in the cage like that. Like, how did they clean that up? I'm not, is that a power thing? Like, you just not worry about doing stuff like that? I'm just wondering. But again, the makeup, like as far as Nynaeve and especially Egwene, like as far as like their lipstick, and like you can tell there's like a little bit of makeup when they're really just traveling. I'm like, how are y'all? Do y'all have like something in your case, in your purse or whatever, or like satchel that you can just doll yourself up when you need to? Is that what that is? I guess. I guess. And then I felt like Rand and Mat was a little too clean, but maybe they had a chance to clean their clothes. Like, I don't know. That's just speculation on my part. So yeah, guys, thanks for listening. Definitely follow Team JVS. You can follow me at Wilcat12 on Instagram and Twitter. But